What's up, Melanated family? How's everybody doing this evening? So let's get right into it. This is your brother Harrison, the Melanated Convo. So check it out. I've been, paying attention to the news, everything that's going on around me, and I see there's a lot of people talking about the Roe versus Wade decision. This Supreme Court decision can possibly be overturned shortly. So of course, political pundits alike, people are giving their opinion on abortion and if a woman should have an abortion or who should be allowed to tell a woman she can have an abortion or not, right? This is important. You know what I mean? So I completely understand why everybody is paying attention to this conversation, right? But what I want to do today, family, is we're going to talk about how does this decision or how does the Roe versus Wade scenario affect Black women specifically, right? So we're going to get right down to it on how this affect our sisters, right? Because we know how racism works. We know how a lot of these systems are orchestrated. You feel me? And sometimes they don't have our best interest in mind. So let's go over it real quickly. So for all of my listeners, everybody out there who isn't aware of what Roe versus Wade is, let's just go over it really quickly, family. Again, this is your brother Harrison, the Melanated Convo. Hit that like button, subscribe. Let's get right to it. So Roe versus Wade was a landmark legal decision issued in January 1973, in which the U.S. Supreme Court struck down a Texas statute banning abortion, effectively legalizing the procedure across the United States. Now, the court held that a woman's right to an abortion was implicit in the right to privacy protected by the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. Now, prior to Roe versus Wade, abortions had been illegal throughout much of the country since the late 19th century. Now, just so you guys know, the reason why this was even brought up in court, just to give you a little bit of history, a lady by the name of Norma McCorvey, a white lady in 1969. She lived in Texas. To make a long story short, she had 2 kids already. She was looking to have an abortion on the possible 3rd child. She was impoverished. She didn't have money. She wasn't able to have an abortion in Texas because it was illegal. She had to travel somewhere else. She didn't have time to travel somewhere else, so she ended up having the kid, right? So because of this, someone recommended to her she should sue the state of Texas, which she did, right? So she sued the state of Texas, and her name, like I said, is Norma McCorvey, but the reason why it's Roe versus Wade, because they gave her the alias Jane Roe, and a part of the lawsuit that she was suing Texas, but she was also suing the district attorney at the time, which was a Caucasian man named Henry Wade. So this is where we get the Roe versus Wade from, right? So check it out real quick, family. Let's get into this, man. How does the Roe versus Wade decision affect Black women, whether this goes through? Because if it goes through, then abortions will be banned, basically. And what will happen is, if this Supreme Court decision goes through, basically states will have the right to determine if they want to allow abortions in their states. A lot of states in the South immediately is going to kick that shit down and they will make abortions illegal. But let's talk about it real quick, right? So first, before I get into it on how the Roe versus Wade decision will affect my sisters, let's get into abortion real quick. Like, before I give my opinion historically, let me just say real quick, of course, a woman should be allowed to have an abortion. Of course, like, that should go without saying. If you're in a situation where you can't take care of a child, if you're in a situation where anything isn't right and that's the decision you want to make, you should be allowed to do that. As long as you're not using abortion as a form of birth control, like abusing the option, then cool, right? Because just on a human basis, you should be allowed to make that decision, right? But let's get into Black women and abortion. Let's get into our history with abortion to a degree, right? So like I just stated, I'm going to state it up front. I think a woman should have the option to have an abortion if she wants to, If the situation isn't right, finances aren't right, she's too young, whatever the reason may be, don't use it as a form of birth control, but it should be available to you if you want to use it, right? But here's the problem, though, family. And shit, this is a combo we got to have as melanated folks. In this country, Black women have way more abortions than everybody else, right? So don't panic yet. Let's break this down a little bit, right? Let's get into why Black women have more abortions. So if we're saying this is a law that's going to ban abortion to the point where states can choose if they want to allow it or not. Of course, some of the argument I've been seeing is, hey, if you are a poor woman, you should be allowed to have a baby because poor women produce LeBron Jameses. And, somebody will give me an example of someone hella successful. Yeah, that's a good example. But I think in reality, just to keep it real, before I move on and we'll talk about why Black women have so many abortions. But before we get to that, let's keep in mind that if a kid is born in poverty, they're more likely to be subjugated to violence, subjugated to having a lack of resources. So they may end up doing certain things. They may not have the access to certain type of healthcare. They may not have the access to certain type of schools. So large in part, the quality of their life may be lowered based on the fact their parents didn't prepare in a particular way. So again, abortion, if you're a woman that feels this is something you want to do, like they say, it is your body, as long as the man is, as long as the man is involved in that decision, to my, in my opinion. But if a woman wants to have an abortion, cool. We just got to keep in mind how abortions have affected our community over the past 50, 60, 70 years, right? So let's get into it real quick. So Black women have more abortions than any other woman in this country, more than 3 times of a white woman. I think 2 times of a Hispanic woman. But before we just look at these numbers and make assertions, let's look at why, right? So, and wait, real quick, something else I want to read, because when we talk about abortions and outlawing it, for the most part, if this Supreme Court decision was overturned tomorrow, California, that I'm living in California, just for an example, California is a state that would still allow abortion, right? So it would be some southern states, a lot of southern states, Midwest, that will ban abortion. And just to give you guys some numbers really quickly here, as far as the amount of Black women who actually have abortions, I think it's like 36% of Black women have abortions in certain situations, even though we're only 12 to 13% of the population. So, for instance, in Mississippi, Black people comprise 44% of the population, right? This is just an example to illustrate what I'm talking about real quick. In Mississippi, people of color comprise, it's 44% of the people in Mississippi are Black, but 81% of the women receive abortions, right? This is according to the Kaiser Family Foundation, which tracks health statistics. In Texas, again, all southern states, in Texas, Black people are 59% of the population and 74% of those receiving abortions. In Alabama, it's similar, 35% of the population, 69% of abortions. Louisiana goes on to have some of the same numbers, right? So when we ask ourselves, why are Black women having more abortions than other women, right? So a lot of times we can link this back to our history, link this back to systematic racism to a degree, but let's get into it. So of course, unplanned pregnancy and the subsequent abortion can have a lot to do with finances, right? So not having the proper amount of money to have the abortion, or not having the proper amount of funds to furnish a life for a child, being aware that you're in an impoverished situation, so you want to have an abortion, being aware that the relationship isn't right, whatever the case may be. But finances do play a part in why some Black women have abortions, right? Also, we have to go we have to go to history for a minute. If you look at the impoverished communities that some of these women come from, healthcare is a problem. Like if you live in a particular area, healthcare isn't readily available. The type of contraceptives that a woman may have available to her may differ based on the area that she lives in. Like the amount of education that's given to make sure a woman is taking advantage of all of her options that may not be readily available in the urban community, as well as the school system, right? That how sex education is taught in a public school, in an inner city school, may be a little bit different than other places. So these are some of the um, bottom line factors on why black women have more abortions than other races of women, right? Because this should get deep, right? So no sex education, money is a problem, of course, and some of these things can go hand in hand with other races of people, but we're talking about our women, so let's get into it. No sex education in school, finances, knowledge about contraceptive, and also something I want to make sure everybody was clear on. When we talk about abortion, when we're talking about Roe versus Wade, right? After Roe versus Wade was passed in 1973, several Planned Parenthood abortion clinics began to pop up around the United States. Now, a study by Protecting Black Lives in 2012 found that 79% of Planned Parenthood surgical abortion facilities are located within walking distance of minorities, right? So this is a big reason why you may see more women of color getting abortions. And then we have to link this. Like, I'm not going to because I've read several articles about these numbers and why black women get more abortions. And, it's a hotbed topic, but we would be remiss not to mention we got to go into the Planned Parenthood shit. And then we got to go into the woman who created Planned Parenthood. Like Margaret Sanger, if you guys aren't aware of a white woman named Margaret Sanger, she is the creator. She's the founder of Planned Parenthood. She believed in eugenics, which was basically a system that tried to weed out the weak of us. Like if her eugenics programs was basically weeding out the weak. If genetically, i.e. black, if they felt you were genetically inferior, this was a way to weed you out of society. So Margaret Sanger was a racist white woman who created this platform to get rid of black babies, basically. This shit, look, family, I don't care what nobody say. These are the reason we see what we see today. We can't just jump to numbers and jump to what's in front of us without historically looking at what led us to this spot that we're in today. You see what I'm saying? So Margaret Sanger, that eugenics program, in my opinion, it's still on autopilot to a degree, family, because of, black women are having abortions because they don't have money, because they didn't plan the pregnancy. But also, as we see, the ability to have an abortion, the ease of it has been instituted into our community. Now it's on autopilot. Now, because like on some real shit, family, someone want to read to y'all really quickly. Where is it? Where is it? Did I write it down? Well, basically, I didn't put it here in my notes, but check it out. Abortion in the black community, like that type of death, kills more black people than murder, than any other crime, any other ailment in our community. Abortion kills more children more. So to me, what Margaret Sanger implemented in the 70s is on autopilot right now. Hence why, in my opinion, we still 12-13% of the population. We've been the same percentage of this United States, of the same percentage of this country for a pretty fucking long time, family. And if you're going to tell me that's just based on happenstance, that's just a coincidence, nah. We killing 500,000 babies a year. Like the abortion rate amongst our people is extraordinary. See, so we need to look at the historical perspective and how some of the racial bias and the institutions that put these things in place are still on autopilot now. But as a black family, we can look at possible things we can do to circumvent this from happening as much. Because let's keep it real, family. I understand being in a position where you're not financially astute, you don't have the backing by family or resources, whatever, but maybe that means you shouldn't have as much sex. It's funny how the people with the people who don't got money, the people who don't got resources, the people who don't got shit to do tend to be the people who fuck the most. You know what I mean? We just got to keep that real. So some of this is the system. Some of this is because of the system. It's created an environment that put our women on autopilot, and you're in these impoverished communities where the options aren't there aren't as many options as you would like. But again, even though that's the case, that's why I'm talking about this Roe versus Wade situation, because in my opinion, family, after looking at the numbers, looking at the situation with us as Black folks, as melanated folks, we have too many abortions per year. So what that means, does that mean I'm saying if you're not ready to have a baby, you should just have one? If in your heart you feel it isn't something you want to do, just have one? No. But how about we start getting more in it advanced in like introducing contraceptives to our kids? How about we like the preventive methods that we take? I don't think we focus on that enough. And then, like I was saying a little bit earlier, some people unfortunately will use an abortion like a form of birth control because it's so readily available to some people, because it's it's a process that some women don't mind going through for whatever reason. We end up seeing more abortions, right? So at the end of the day, because again, like I said, I'm not an advocate of you just keeping a kid when you're not ready. But how about we start preparing in a different way then? If we know if I have a baby, I won't have the finances to do the things necessary to fund their life, then maybe I should wear a condom. If I'm a man, that's why I'm always preaching to my dudes, because we're talking about women right now. And women, yes, women, there are several more types of contraceptives available for women, right? If they want to prevent pregnancy, I think it's a matter of, and I'm not a woman, so don't kill me here, but I would think it's a matter of finding the one that works for you. You know what I mean? And being consistent with it, and being like understanding what you want for your future. I think that plays a part in it too. Like the type of life you want for your child, that may play a part in you being a little safer. You know what I mean? But for my men out there, you got to wear a condom, bro. Like I know some men, I've heard throughout my life, a couple that said, yeah, I had on a condom and she still got pregnant. But I think that shit is rare. I think if you wear a condom the correct way, you're pretty fucking safe. So as a man, you can prevent all of this anyway. Because if we all know, when having a sexual relationship with somebody, a lot of times a condom is something you use in the beginning and then it kind of tapers off. As Black people specifically, this is a serious set of events that we have to begin looking at, it like that. Like investing in our future mentally is important. But with every article I'm reading about this Roe versus Wade, the history of it, the racism, the implementation of it all, when it comes to us, it all kind of goes back to a systematic racist structure that was put into place. And then we take that structure and just put it on autopilot, even if it isn't being reinforced or enforced like it used to be. Because it's such an institution in our community, we just put that shit on autopilot. Now they don't have to enforce it. Now they don't have to speak much about it. We're just going to do it ourselves, right? So this is a difficult situation, man. This is the interesting topic, too, that all of us should take serious. Because if we got young people, young men, young women around us, we need to get them to understand the importance of bringing a life into the world, like what should be in place already if you are to bring a life in the world. Let's not kick this shit like resources aren't necessary to raise a child. I think sometimes in society, with all people to a degree, we don't factor in the struggle when contemplating if we're going to have a kid or not. That the first thing you should be thinking about is, how am I going to feed and clothe, and what kind of food and clothes do I want that to be? Like, on some real shit, family, I don't think anybody should just be getting by, right? Money ain't everything. I'm not saying that, but I don't think anybody should be just getting by. I don't think anybody should be in like an impoverished situation. Like, if you could choose to put your child in a position where they have resources and options in their life, would you do that? Or would you put them in a situation where you don't know what kind of school they're going to go to? You don't know kind of neighborhood they're going to live in. You just flying by the pants. We have to be honest. Why would someone choose that? Now, get it. A woman may say, excuse me, family. A woman may say, I don't want to have an abortion that's messing up my body. As a man, as a lot of the conversations I'm seeing are leaning towards, as a man, I can't tell you what to do. Like I can't tell you the severity of doing either or. Like I understand women go through things that we just can't even fathom. You know what I mean? But at the same time, we need to be cognizant of this while we're having sex. Man and woman. You see what I'm saying? So the moral of the story is this Roe versus Wade situation ain't going to affect us too much, in my opinion. Because really, let's say it do go through. In southern states, women can't have abortions. Well, they're still going to have abortions. Just like when you outlaw a drug or you outlaw something where it can't be used, people will find a way to get said thing done. So there still will be abortions. They'll go across state lines. It'll be illegal abortions going on, which I was reading about, which took place in the early the 50s and the 60s. Earlier than that, like illegal abortions was a thing because it wasn't legal, right? So women are still going to find a way to do some of these things. But family, how about as melanated people, we get to a position mentally where we're more responsible sexually, right? Again, I mentioned earlier all of the institutionalized ailments. I'm always going to speak about how and if this system put us in a particular position. Like I'm never going to take that off the table. I don't care who complain about that. We have to talk about all of the factors that got us where we're sitting today, right? But even with that being said, personal accountability is always a thing. So we need to look at these historical factors and use them as motivation to avoid any pitfalls that were set up based on these institutions. See? So we have a say-so. And when I'm reading 400,000, 500,000 women that are melanated are aborting kids on a yearly basis, I'm thinking, shit, that's a lot of potential people. Like, let's keep it real, right? So let's remove the system that created some of these things just for a second and look at each other and say, okay, boom, what can we do as parents? Because some of this is traditional. Like some of this is being passed down. As parents, what can we do now to put our children in a position where they won't think frivolously when it comes time to mating, when it comes time to procreating? And how can we make it like they land a little softer based on our accumulation of resources? Because that matters. You know what I mean? All of these things matter. You see what I'm saying? So this is your brother Harrison. This is the Melanated Convo. Abortion is a woman's choice, but we have to look at the amount of abortions that we have as our people. And you know what I mean? Like, let's look at each other and say, wait. What can we do? How can we maneuver around this? How can we cut that number down a little bit? You know what I mean? So this is your brother Harrison, man, the Melanated Convo. Do me a favor, go to the Melanated Convo on YouTube. The last interview with the brother Rev Shock. The last interview I did with the brother Philip Shock Matthews. Great interview about history. A lot of game in that interview. Go to the website or go to the YouTube page to check it out. You can go to the website as well, which is Melanated Convo. It's getting reconstructed right now, but I think it's still up and popping. You feel me? Tomorrow, today's Thursday, tomorrow's Friday, interview with a sister named Therese Fleetwood, who is a romance concierge, and she has a lot of tips about how to rekindle the flame in your relationship and intimacy tips. And, you know, I mean, we get real deep in the conversation. That's coming out tomorrow, which is Friday. I'm moving, man. I'm out here working. This is your brother Harrison, the Melanated Convo. Like, subscribe, become a member of the family. I'm out.